What up, Footer Nation? Gary Hootenholla here, and welcome to another episode of the NYBS Radio Show right here from the great state of New York. I got my very special co-host tonight, Joe Sasquatch. What's up, my man?
Hey, man. How's it going?
So stoked for this. So, Footer Nation, as you know, we've taken a hiatus for a while, so we haven't been around. So we kind of disappear after the winter, get back to work in the woods, do a lot of things. Life gets busy, things like that. So during the summer, normally we aren't doing radio shows and podcasts. This is a very special one, though. So as we were saying, we're back in the saddle again, baby. Yeah, buddy. So we are now back. So the NYBS Radio Show is coming back. My boy Kenny will be back with us in the next couple weeks. And we'll be right back to having our shows and getting squatchy with you all. But tonight, I am super stoked because whenever Joe and I get together, it turns into a circus. He's my grump master. He's like my mentor of grump, and I love it. And he's my mentor, and I love the guy so much. So, Joe, you've been busy. So let's get right with you first, because, you know, first off, I'm honored to be able to work with you. You know how much I respect you in the field. You know, you're a mentor to me, and I'm very blessed to know you as a friend. And that, to me, that means a lot more as a friend than other than the Bigfoot stuff. But let's get into it. You've been busy.
The feeling's mutual, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome. At the end of the day, what's cool about the Bigfoot community is that when you meet people that are awesome and then you come together, you get some awesome friendships. And I've met some great people in this field. But Joe, tell us what you've been up to, and because you've been busy.
Well, yeah, I've been busy with work.
Well, you know, but with the Bigfoot stuff, you're evolving now. So tell everybody about your evolution.
Well, you know, I mean, and without going into it again, you know, deeply and stuff, you know, all the years, 43 years, man, absolutely. My thinking has evolved on this whole thing, you know, and, you know, things that I used to just, you know, take for granted. And we're going to talk about this, I know, later, you know, things that I'm looking at now, I realized back in the day when I was younger and all excited and, you know, and everything was Sasquatch, it was a lot of bias confirmation going on, you know. Mm-hmm. And now, and you know what, that's one of the reasons why I know people have nitpicked at me about it, about, oh, you know, changing your name from research to investigation, you know, it doesn't make a difference. And I'm like, well, yeah, actually it does, because investigating is more what I'm doing, because you know what, the research usually hasn't gone anywhere, you know. I do what's called investigation, man. That's all I'm doing. I'm not really doing any research out there. Mm-hmm. And I've evolved into the point, that's what my shows are doing right now. I'm investigating. That's why I have on, you know, and I want people who, you know, not necessarily, although I will, if I find a researcher that, hey, if you've got something genuine and you want to share it and you can be on my show, absolutely, because I want to highlight you and your data if you've got it. But I also want to highlight those people who aren't researchers, you know, that are just been out there and maybe they've had something happen and they've had an encounter. And part of my investigation goes into listening to those credible encounters and putting together threads. See if I could learn something. Because often, a lot of times, I'm telling you, now, in the investigation, I'm actually sometimes learning more from encounters than I do from walking around the woods, gauging bias confirmation about this tree bend, this tree break, that X over there. This is all Sasquatch Sasquatch activity. Who says? Where's the proof that that's what it is? You know? So, yeah. And you know what? I've been out recently. You know, we just went out camping a couple weeks ago. I guess it was now 3 weeks ago. And yeah, I mean, I got some recording here that I've got some what sound like wood knocks, some thumps. We've heard some weird stuff. And yeah, I've got that collected that, on audio, but does that prove that those were Bigfoot out there? No. My investigation says, okay, if you want to stretch it and say it's a possibility, sure, it's a possibility. But can I say it's a probability? I can't say it's a probability. I can say it's a possibility,
Mm-hmm.
And so, but there's so many people, man. I don't know if you want to jump right into this now, but there's so much
Keep
bias.
going.
There's so
Keep
much
going.
bias. There's so much bias confirmation out there. It's ridiculous, man. It's just ridiculous how much bias confirmation is out there. And it's I learned a new word that I never knew before: priming. And that is when your brain is already primed, Bigfoot, and you're walking out there with your brain primed, Sasquatch. And then that's when you're going to start with the bias confirmation because you're already primed.
Yeah, I mean that's true, and it totally makes sense.
And you can find not one single footprint and see a bunch of other stuff, that supposedly Sasquatch does, and you'd be like, active area.
Yep.
Well, you haven't even found what I would consider myself, anyway, the most concrete evidence of activity, and that's footprints.
No, you're 100. That's once again, it's 100% correct.
So it's like, man, I don't know, but see, I am so guilty of it myself, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's why it frustrates me that much now, is because I see it all over, and I was guilty of it myself, man. Bias confirmation.
Yeah, well, we were talking about this. Sorry, I was just sharing to a bunch of pages. So, Footer Nation, we've been talking about this a lot, all right? And as you know, I'm pretty much a flesh and blood guy. I've been a guy who I think that, that they're own species and blah, blah, blah. With that being said, the problem with being a Bigfooter and a Bigfoot researcher is there's many problems to this, all right? Joe, how long have you been doing this for? 40-something years, right?
43, yeah, since I was 14.
43.
Almost
right?
44.
Yeah, so, and I've been
44.
doing this for 12 years, okay? And once again, which is I'm a baby compared to Joe. Joe and I come from different worlds of the Bigfoot phenomena. You know what I mean? He comes from just a guy that's going in the woods, doing his thing nice and quiet. I come from a guy who's been on National Geographic Channel, who's been on Discovery Channel, who's been on the Bigfoot TV shows. I've been on the circuit. So you have two different avenues of the Bigfoot world. So we've both seen the Bigfoot world from different perspectives, but yet we're looking for the same answers. And what's awesome is that when Joe and I talk, honestly, we have nothing. We have the same answer, basically nothing. All right. We have our encounter stories. All right. Joe had his encounter. I've had my 2 encounters. All we are left with is a story, though. All right.
Absolutely.
From 2 people who take the Bigfoot hobby, because it's a hobby, let's be real, but take the Bigfoot hobby from a serious perspective. Okay. The problem is this, and I'm super guilty of this, and I always own my faults. I'm the first one to tell you when I'm wrong. I have no problem with that. Is that when we go into the woods, what happens 9 times out of 10 when we go out Bigfooting? And let's be real, Footer Nation. I'm keeping this very real. We go out into the woods and then we start looking for the sign. What are we looking for? People are looking for tree bends, right? You're looking for the nice big tree snaps, right? That are like, 9 feet tall, because it has to be nice and tall, right? Because all Bigfoots are 7 to 8 feet tall, right? 9 feet tall. Even though, Joe, we were kidding around on your show, someone said they want to see a 20-foot Bigfoot, right? I was like, 20 feet? Like, I don't know what you're talking about. But anyway, we always look for certain things, okay? Why do we look for certain things, Footer Nation? It's this, and I'm guilty of this because I've been a part of it. We watch Bigfoot TV. You watch the documentaries. Amazon Prime is full of them. You can find a million documentaries on Amazon Prime. We watch all the shows and TV shows that are on TV, on History Channel, Discovery Channel, these kind of things. Where do we learn Bigfoot behavior from? Where? The people that are on the TV shows. Think about Finding Bigfoot. Great TV show. I watched Finding Bigfoot forever. I enjoyed it a lot, and I still enjoy it. I know Kenny liked that. Kenny's a big Finding Bigfoot fan too. But really, when you stop to think about it, before the Bigfoot phenomenon in the community was like as big as it is now, where did people even learn what a tree knock was? Matt Moneymaker, right? Where did you even learn about howling and yelling as loud as you can in the woods? Bobo, right? Because he did the different types of calls. What did you learn about footprints? And where did you learn about all that? Cliff, right? Because he is like the footprint master next to Meldrum himself, think about it, because he studies that stuff. Where did you learn about to be a skeptic, to sit there and, think about like this isn't, forever. So what was that girl's name? I forgot. So Renee.
Yeah.
Renee. So think about it. Footer Nation, we learned a lot of this stuff from TV. Now let's fast forward. It is 2021. What now? Where are we learning the information from? Would you like to answer that one? Oh no. I'm lagging a little bit here.
Yeah, it froze up a little.
But Joe, are you there?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're lagging just a little bit. So where do we learn Bigfoot information in 2021?
Yeah, from the internet, from the TV shows.
Correct. And there it is. Our good friend Loretta. The internet. Let me take her off because maybe that is slowing down things. But yeah, so the internet, right? So when you go on all these, there we go. So when we go on all these, great group pages, all these different Bigfoot, tons and tons and tons of them. And Angela, yes, the internet, just, they know. You go on all these different pages, even our pages, right? Like people come to our pages. Our pages are a little bit different than a lot of these other pages. But in the same sense, it's like you go to the internet pages. You start going to all these group pages. On the group pages. What is one of the number one new Bigfoot things that we see on all the pages? Come on, Footer Nation, I know Joe knows.
You know it is. I'll give you a hint.
We talk about it all the time.
I'll give you a hint. It's red.
It's red. It's red. Come on, Footer Nation. Better than this. All right, it's circles and arrows.
Circles and arrows, man. Dogman.
Loretta's Dogman. Ground glyphs, yes. Carrie, I can't go wrong with that because if you follow.
Uh-oh. Gary froze up.
If you found glyphs, I were liking today. So I apologize ahead of time for some tech issues. Just deal with us. And here we go. Tree bends and X's. Okay, that's another big one. Tree bends and X's. So ground glyphs, tree bends and X's. Loretta, we're not forgetting about you because you know what? You are 100% right. Right about Dogman. Okay, so all the pages and we hear about Dogman, and so these are the things that we're hearing around the internet. Glyphs, just to kind of bring back up Carrie's thing. So one thing that we do here is I put out a lot of glyphs in different areas and put them in different languages. Okay, if you've watched the show in the past, I've talked about how I use the Chinese alphabet, and I've had some really good success using the Chinese alphabet with ground glyphs. Now this is where it stops. Why, Joe? Because now I'm starting to come into that famous word, bias confirmation. Okay, bias confirmation states that if I did not see the Bigfoot decide to come and change the glyph and do it, even though that it is changed, I can't say that a Bigfoot did it.
Right.
Obviously, the inside of me, right, is like, oh my God, this is so awesome. It's happening. I know it's happening. I know it. Why else would it happen? And I'm shitting Cheerios at that point in time and glitter. I'm like, woo, yeah, glitter. But I did not know that a Bigfoot made the glyph. That's where I have to change as a researcher. And I was talking to Joe before the show. It's very important now, Footer Nation, and the NYBS Army, and win big, right? Because you're kind of the same this way. And I don't want to speak for you, but you could probably agree with me on this, is that we have to rise above the shit. We have to rise above the shit. It's 9:30 now. We can swear. So with that, there's so much stuff that people think that are out there that is a Bigfoot. Joe, talk about animal sounds, because that's what we were talking about before.
That's the one thing, man. I am, you know what? At the risk of just everybody hating me, but I can't take it, man. I can't take it. This weird owl sound. It was a Sasquatch mimicking an owl. How the fuck do you know that? Dude, I've got a really weird owl sound recorded on video. And back then I was like, holy shit, what the hell is that? And I thought, well, at first it sounds a little bit like an owl at first, but then it like evolved into this like weird gurgling scream type thing. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell that. And I was like, Sasquatch must be, maybe, oh, wow, they can really mimic. I gave it to an owl expert, and I will tell you something right now, and I will give you his name. This man is an expert in owl calls. His name is Patrick Quackenbush. And I met Patrick Quackenbush at one of the only conferences, and I like to call them the circus shows, that I've been to. And this man is an expert, and I submitted that recording to him. And he said he listened to it. He said, I had to listen to it a few times. He said, but what it sounded like he got there is a juvenile barred owl practicing its voice, and you have another owl, a different species of owl, which there's more than just barred owls here in New York. There's other kinds of owls. I don't know exactly which ones. There's, I can't remember the name of another one, but he said you have another that vocalized right on top of it, so that it blended in to sound like one weird call. Yeah. And I went, holy shit, really? And I'm like, I had to accept it. I mean, the guy's an expert, man. I'm not going to say, no, because then I would have been persisting in biased confirmation by going, that guy didn't know what he's talking about. That's a Sasquatch call if I've ever heard one. It was one of them mimicking. Yeah. First of all, you don't know that Sasquatch mimic other animals. I'm not putting it out of the realm of possibility that they can. I say that because people can do it. And if they are similar to us, like I hypothesize, I went over the difference between a hypothesis and a theory the other day. Hypothesis is just an idea that you get before any testing or experimentation is done. I hypothesize about what they are, and because also from what I've seen myself, then maybe they can mimic. We can do it. I've heard plenty. Patrick Quackenbush, the owl expert, if that man was standing in the woods and you didn't see him and he did a barred owl, you wouldn't be able to tell it wasn't a barred owl. So if we can do it, maybe they can, but there's no proof that they do.
Exactly. And the thing is,
so when I hear an owl, it's a freaking owl, man, until I see a Sasquatch going, hoo, 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 or what, Dad.
That was amazing. That was a great owl impression, by the way.
Yeah, that sucked, but
no, that was amazing. Great. I love it. Okay, great. Take two. Take two. Action. Yeah, buddy. No, and I agree with you 100%. I agree with you 100%. I mean, let's think about it, right? And we were talking about this before. Like, once again, when you go into the woods, right? And Carrie said it perfect, and I had that up forever, and I'll do it again because she said it perfectly. You should listen to all your local animal sounds before you go out in the woods. So even if you're out into the woods, just know what animals that you have there. Now, even if we know the information that we could, once again, this is put in our knowledge bank, right? It doesn't mean that some of these animals are still going to make these different sounds that we never heard before. Remember, we're not out, we don't live in the forest, all right? When we go into the woods, not anymore. When we go into the woods, how long are we out into the woods for? Even if you're on a camping trip, right? Say at most, a few days, and we'll even push it. Let's say you go out for a week. You're in the woods for a week. You still won't even hear any, like, over half of what these animals say and like talk and how they vocalize. Okay. Mm-hmm. You won't hear these sounds. Yet here we are in the woods for like a couple hours. Say like, we'll even say for 12 hours. So we're Bigfooting for 12 hours. Do you honestly think we're going to even remotely hear any of those sounds? Very rare. You might hear a barred owl, right? I mean, barred owls are all over the place, but we're not going to hear
them all the time.
Yeah, and that's a common thing. We're not going to hear fisher cats. We're not going to hear foxes. We're not going to hear what some coyotes do. We're not going to hear some bears may do. We're not going to hear some of these things. Once again, Footer Nation, Joe and I aren't saying that Sasquatch doesn't exist because we've both seen them. We know they exist. That's the difference for us. So we know for ourselves that Bigfoot exists. That's not what we're saying, because a lot of people will come at us and be like, well, I know Bigfoot is this and they exist and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, dude, listen, I know they exist too. I've seen two of them. I've seen two. Okay. That's not what we're talking about. What we're talking about, though, is the disinformation. Think about it. And I'm sure most of the people watching, or if you watch later, you can agree. All Bigfoot stuff is recycled trash, because we recycle the same theories and the same ideas over and over and over. When I started Bigfooting, and this is back in like, I think late 2000s, so like 12 years ago, like late 2000s, and I'm the same things back then that I was started researching and doing. Guess what? They're still talking about it in 2021, right? I mean, think about that. That's a 12-year span, and I'm sure it's a lot longer, but I'm only can speak for myself. In 12 years, nothing has changed. Nothing. We talk about tree knocks. We talk about tree bends. We talk about, the big one for me that I find kind of funny in some ways is Bigfoot nest. Okay. I always find that one funny. I do. I'm sorry, I do. Then we talk about tree breaks, really high tree breaks.
Wind can do that. Yep, Gary froze up. You froze up, Gary.
Okay. I'm back. There we go. Over and over. Yeah, the thing's lagging today. I don't know why. Of course, at least it doesn't lag when I'm doing college homework, because that would really suck. But no, over and over. It's just to recycle this of the nonsense. And so my question is, when does it change? So when does the narrative change?
Right.
Think about it. Like, are we not looking for, I mean, obviously we're not seeing everything in the woods. We know that. I mean, we'd be very naive to think that when we go into the woods and we do any kind of research, investigation, exploring, whatever you want to call yourself, your title, that, because it's a title given to ourselves. Like it is. Like, hey, I'm gonna start calling when we go Bigfooting, I'm gonna start calling the Bigfoot Rodeo. That's where we go. We're going out for the Bigfoot Rodeo. We're just gonna go out there. You know what I mean? Like, But
we're gonna
think about it.
lasso us a Bigfoot.
Lasso us a Bigfoot and ride that thing. And if not,
right.
I'm gonna find that unicorn it rides, and I'm gonna ride that that magical unicorn. But no, like really. But when does it change now? When does the Bigfoot narrative change? Which it has in a way, because now I don't remember so long ago back then, because maybe it was happening and I just didn't notice it. But here we are in 2021, and now we have the circles and arrows. And it always has to be a red circle. And Jay said it perfectly. Jay, you're awesome. This is perfectly said. Everyone's an expert. That is the problem, because there's no such thing as an expert. And then that's what it kills us. Like, and you know, Joe and I have been doing this a long time. Like, people look at me and they're like, well, you've been on TV, you must know. I'm like, dude, I don't know anything more than someone else going in the woods. It doesn't mean
I'm not an expert.
I'm not an expert. You know what we're an expert in? We're an expert in bullshit. We are. Because we're trying to sell a product, basically, be like, guess what? We know a Bigfoot tree knocks, and this is why. And did you see, Gary, but did you see him tree knock? Well, no. I was watching Finding Bigfoot that day, and they brought out a Louisville slugger. Remember when Louisville made those little Bigfoot knocker sticks, and you could buy them at the shop? But no, seriously though, think about it, Footer Nation. This is the problem: is that everybody thinks they're an expert in something they don't know. All right, even myself, as far as my background is in animal behavior and science. Like, I went to school and college and have a degree in animal science and behavior. So I have the understanding of what animal behavior is, but does that mean I'm an expert when it comes to Bigfoot behavior? Not at all. Because the first thing I'm going to say, Joe and I were talking about this, as a field biologist, what do? A field biologist goes into the woods. They collect data, right? Because I'm a data nerd. I love my data. But you go into the woods and you collect data and you research what you're doing. Now think about this. Are we hearing field biologists that go out into the woods collecting the data on whatever they're studying? Do they start chirping about all the possibilities while they're collecting that data? No. You don't hear anything about these things until the research project is done. And then what do? They formulate all that data, put it together in a nice little report that sucks to write. And then they push it out and be like, listen, this is the data we collected. Here are our theories and our hypothesis. And then you go and do that. And exactly. And then, perfect, Jay again. And if you're gracious enough, a person shares. And that's really what it comes down to. It really comes down to these things. And John, you do make a good point. And we're going to get to this point, is that we don't know, but it may be all true. And you know what? And you're right. 100% you're right. And this is something that Joe and I mean, you agree with that, right, Joe?
Sure. I mean, yeah, it might all be true. But the thing, the problem I have, here we go. The grump is strong in me. The problem I have is that right now, at this very moment, it's all freaking hypothesis. That's all it is. It's hypothesis. And yet there are people out there that are presenting it as a fact.
Correct.
And it's not a fact.
Correct.
This is, like Gary says, man, I only can reiterate and reconfirm. I know that freaking Sasquatch is a real species. I think they're a relic hominin of some sort. From what I saw, I know they're real. Okay, I'm not disbelieving anything, but I'm being realistic about it. It's still all hypothesis right now until we can get a subject. You cannot do real research on something until you have a subject to study. You can find all the footprints in the world. You can gather data. Say they gather the data that says, okay, maybe I'll use myself as an example. Say I gather enough data to be able to say, okay, Bigfoot, Sasquatch actually do make blinds. That's one of my hypotheses. Gary knows why. We found a footprint near one. I've seen plenty of examples of these things. I haven't always found footprints near them, but it's my hypothesis that they do that. Suppose I'm able to say one day, okay, that is a fact. Okay. So we can say Bigfoot. Now you can go out there and find all of them you want, but what is that telling you about them? That they make blinds. That's it. That's all that's telling you. It's not giving you any answers that are real important, like what the hell is a Sasquatch?
But
where do they belong in the evolutionary tree? These are, and maybe I'm the only one these questions are important to. I don't know. But none of this stuff is answering any of those questions. No, I can find footprints all day long. The only thing that tells me Sasquatch have been in the area. They may be in the area currently. I don't know, just by a footprint. They've been there. That's all that tells me. So all of it is just all hypothesis. And I'm just like, every time I turn around, I see blurry pictures and circles and arrows and this and that. And this is Sasquatch. And it's like, what are you proving? Nothing.
Nothing.
That's
what are you
not even
doing?
A Sasquatch.
No, and that's the thing that these people don't realize. And you know what? And maybe because we're old, we're grumpy. We're just the grumpy people.
I'm on my soapbox, man.
It's all right. No, and Loretta said it very well. She goes, when people are comfortable sharing others' experiences that don't fit the current narrative. And we were talking about, once again, what you see in what we're seeing in the Bigfoot community. Footer Nation, let's be real. When you see a picture, right? I mean, you guys follow this stuff just like we do. That's why you're listening to us yap about nothing right now. Listen, when you see a picture and they take a picture and they make 5 circles all around the picture, like, look at, there's one over here and one over here and one over here and an arrow over here and there's a donkey over here. And, I mean, let's be real. We all seen it. What good does that do anything? What good? Like, what are you trying to accomplish by showing 5 circles in one picture saying that there's Bigfoots everywhere when we don't even have a body in science? Okay, first off. Second off, it's not even a known species. Just because Joe and I believe that Bigfoot exists because we've seen them doesn't mean it's a known species. So we have a species that we don't even know anything about, other than it leaves very large footprints from 13 inches to about 15, 16 inches. We say that's about 6 feet tall to about 8 feet tall. Joe has the whole weight differential thing. He knows all that stuff. This is the other thing that I always find interesting. Why don't we ever talk about the small Sasquatches? Why does it always have to be a 6-foot Sasquatch? Why can't it be a 3-foot Sasquatch? Why does a Sasquatch have to have longer arms than its side to go all the way down to its knees? Why does every single Sasquatch have to do that? Why are we classifying? And I was watching a show and they're talking about, well, the Sasquatch smells really bad. Well, guess what, Footer Nation? The 2 that I witnessed didn't smell at all. I didn't smell no rotten eggs. I didn't smell no skunk. I didn't smell nothing. They were just standing right in front of me, looking at me. But I mean, if they smelled that bad, don't you think that me in the woods would be like, oh, what's that smell? It smells like pond.
We'll be right back.
We're back. Let's go. We're back. What's up, everyone? But anyway, that's what I'm saying. Like, there's such they generalize everything so much to the point of, where is your facts coming from? Like, where are your facts? Like in Jay, like Jay just said, he goes, I'll put it up on, and he said it good. He goes, think they are smarter than we are. My own opinion, I think they have been here way before we were. And Jay, we totally agree.
I agree with that.
Totally agree with that. And we wouldn't even argue that point. I totally agree. They've been around forever. As far as smart, I always kind of hesitate on the smartness factor. I think they're smart in their environment. Once again, like how we're smart in our environments. So because they once again, they're adapted to the wilderness. We're not adapted to the wilderness anymore like we used to. So even when we go into the woods, you can be the best of the best, and you're still going to make mistakes. I know you like Les Stroud. I know I'm a big Les Stroud fan, right?
I lost a little bit of respect for him, though.
But, well, yeah, I mean, he's just doing his thing, though. So at the end of the day, his real stuff, when you look at him as as
a survivalist, got total respect.
Yeah, that's all I'm talking about. I'm not even talking about the Bigfoot thing, because I don't. Once again, when you start bringing these people into Bigfoot, I kind of shy away from it. But anyway, as a survivalist, he's one of the best. I mean, I've watched it, all right. But he even does bloopers. He shows bloopers where he screws up all the time. So it's like, so you're talking about, once again, but think about that. That's a guy who's like really is a professional in what he does, and one of the best, and he still screws up in the woods, right? So here we are going into the woods, and they're just masters of their environment. I don't think they can cloak themselves. I don't think that they can vanish in a portal. I could be wrong. Could be totally wrong. But until someone shows me a video or a picture of not a hoax, which we wouldn't even be able to probably pull that apart anyway, but of it doing it, then how can we stop and start saying Bigfoot does this stuff? That's biased confirmation, friends. Yeah. It's something that we want to happen because we're in the woods researching them, because we need to feel good about ourselves, right? So when we're out wasting our time, our money, our families are pissed off because we're out in the woods and not home with them, spending time with them, and we're out trudging around looking for an imaginary creature, right? That everybody says about. Even though Joe and I believe it exists because we've seen it, we are still doing bias confirmation because we want whatever we're seeing to be put with Bigfoot. Because once again, we're out there doing the work. And that's where it needs to stop. And that's where it kind of needs to stop, though. And that's something, like I told you, like in the beginning of the show, someone like myself, I've been doing it a long time. I'm guilty of bias confirmation a million times. But that's where this is where we need to evolve as a community. We need to evolve as researchers.
Me too.
And Joe and I are real people. We'll just tell it like it is. And if you like us, great. And if you don't like us, great. But in the same sense, it's like, what we believe is that there's too much recycled stuff out there. Yeah. We're not saying that a Bigfoot doesn't tree knock, but show me. Just show me.
Look, I admit it, man. I admit it. When I go out there camping, and I hear those weird tree knocks or what sound like tree knocks, I'm not even going to call them tree knocks. No. It sounds like wood on wood, okay? It could be something totally different.
It could be a vocal.
Like wood on wood. It sounds like a stomp. You know, when I go out there and I hear that crap, do I get excited? Sure I do.
Everybody does. I do too. Like when you do a response, like I've had plenty of times where I take rocks and throw them at trees. I don't use wood on wood. I take rocks and they do that nice hollow sound. Because let's think about this. All right, Footer Nation, let's brainstorm. Because we know you guys, say you guys and ladies, what's the word I'm thinking of? I'm having a brain fart. But anyway, we know you guys and ladies we know what you're talking about. What would make the hollow sound the same every single time? You go in the woods, friends, go into the woods and grab a stick and start hitting trees. You cannot get that sound. You can't. You'll try 1,000 times before you get that nice sound. It could be a vocal. If it's the same every single time, it could be a vocal. But guess what we're doing? Bias confirmation, because here we are now talking about the same shit again.
Right. And that's the thing. And I do get excited about it because you know why? Because I say it again, it could be. That's why I get excited. Because, it could be a Sasquatch. It could be.
Yeah.
How am I going to prove that it's a Sasquatch? Am I going to try to chase it down and see where the knocking's coming from? Well, yeah, I've done that too. I've tried to get closer to where I've heard knocks come from. Can't seem to do it, but I try, right? So I do get excited about it, but I'm still, that excitement is caused by bias confirmation.
So we have some awesome comments. we got some awesome comments, and this is we're gonna bounce off this because I think I want to make sure people understand where we're coming from. So with all this talk, now one thing we were talking about the vocal, right? Jay, who's said some awesome things in the chat, he said it's made by their mouth, and this is what he says. He said
it could be
but he said is what a native person said to me. Okay. Now, James on the YouTube channel, which I'm sorry that I'm not getting to all the YouTube chat. I got so much chat going on over here. You have to keep an open mind and listen to what the Native Americans say. So let's think about this, right? Joe, you want to give your native stuff?
Well, you're preaching to the core because I used to have what I would call a Native American. He was a mentor, basically, when I was younger. So absolutely, I agree with what these people are saying. Yeah, I didn't put past. I wouldn't ignore what the Native Americans have to say about it. They've lived with this species a lot longer. I'm not saying that every last bit of what they said, you can't be skeptical about some of it, because a lot of it we can't wrap our minds around. Some of the stuff, Walter is his name. Was his name. I'm sorry, he's passed away many, many years now. But Walter used to tell me all kinds of things. He was a Seneca native right here from New York. And he used to tell me all kinds. Now, he never told me that they that they travel through portals, that they were interdimensional, that they could be spirit or flesh and blood. Now, there's a difference between being a spiritual animal and being a spirit or a ghost or incorporeal. There's a whole lot that goes into it. The Native Americans, the Senecas, they were very spiritual about everything, bear, deer, etc. So you got to take that into consideration. But he told me a lot of stuff about him. The thing about the lip popping, I don't doubt that, okay, that a Native American may have told you that. Because I've heard that same thing, not from Walter, but Walter told me that they whistle. Okay. So do I say the Sasquatch can whistle? That might be one of the things I say that I'm pretty sure that they do. Is whistle, because he said they do. He wouldn't lie to me. And I've heard the weird whistle that he's talked about, that he told me what it sounded like. And I've had it mimicked back to me. So when you talk about mimicking, if you say they can mimic other animals, that's why I don't put it out of the possibility. I just can't prove that the owl that I just heard was a Sasquatch mimicking an owl, not just an owl. He told me that they whistle. The lip pop, that's what I've heard. It might be something they do with their mouth instead of a wood knock. Could be a possibility. Could be. And I want to see what Dean says here too. I'm sorry, I lost track because
I know we have a lot of comments. I'm trying to keep up on them all. But well, Carrie said this, and keep talking. But Carrie said this, and this is good because once again, our good friend Carrie, Bigfoot Mountain, please follow her. Right? If you just follow her, she knows her stuff. She's always out in the woods.
Carrie.
I love seeing her nature pictures, man. Like
I said the same thing, that I've been guilty of hearing a knock or three knocks and knocking
awesome.
back.
I have no idea.
I've been guilty of that, even though I've said the same thing as Carrie. It's like I don't do calls because, number one, I suck at them anyway, and no Bigfoot would be fooled by my call. But
that's
also,
the other thing,
even if I did do a good, convincing call of what they think is a Bigfoot call, I don't know what the hell I'm saying. If that is a Bigfoot call, what did I just say? Come get me, big boy?
Well, that's the thing. Well, Ron Moorhead says when people have played the Sierra, so people play by the Sierra Sounds, and they play that out in the woods. People ask me, they're like, Gary, why don't you do that? Why don't you play the Sierra Sounds in the woods? I'm like, are you crazy? First off, first off, let's go down the list of why that's a bad idea. First off, I mean, I don't even know if that's a Bigfoot sound. I don't know. Because once again, I wasn't there. I'm not saying that. I mean, it could be something else. I mean, but I guess I believe for myself that a Bigfoot would sound like that. So I've heard weird Bigfoot type sounds in the woods, but hear what I said? Bigfoot type sounds. But here I am saying I know what a Bigfoot sounds like, which I don't. I just heard calls that I don't know what sound it is. Okay.
I know what one scream sounds like.
Yeah, I mean,
and that's only because the one I saw screamed at me, so I know what he sounds like.
So there you go. So you have
when he screams. If I ever hear that again in the woods, I'll be like, "That's Bigfoot." In fact, I might even be able to go, "That's Rasta."
Yeah. So I mean, there you go. but then going back to the Sierra Sounds, and like Carrie said perfectly, it's like, we don't know what the hell those sounds mean. We don't know anything. And here we are, because we hear this all the time. And I'm actually on the opposite side of this fence, is that, well, Bigfoots are nice and they're cuddly and they'll never hurt a human and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sitting there like, are you freaking crazy? Like, let's stop and think of this logically. Everybody has a bad day. Animals have a bad day. When you're walking in the woods and you see bears, are you like, oh, wow, there's a bear. Let's see. It's okay. Bears don't hurt humans. 9 times out of 10, they will retreat and go away. But guess what? There's always that one that will test the waters.
Right.
It only takes one. It only takes one. So when we continue to hear about Bigfoots being so docile, your forest friend and blah, 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 I'm just sitting there as a researcher, because I consider myself a researcher, that that's crazy talk. Because even if I was going to do field biology studies on coyotes, just say coyotes, do you think when I go in the woods with a group of coyotes that I'm going to feel comfortable being like, you know what, it's okay because they don't bother humans? Because you know what, I go night hiking all the time. And I've never been bothered by a coyote, which I can tell you, I've been stalked out of the fucking woods by coyotes. They stalked us all the way out of the woods. And I was scared shitless because there was multiple of them. And there were some on the right side and there was some on the left side. And you could hear them coming through the woods and they were stalking us out of the woods. So, yeah, and Jaybird, missing 411. Yep. And you have those stories. But for us to be naive, to say a possible creature that we don't even know exists, we know nothing about, other than we find footprints and eye sighting reports. That's all we know. That's literally all we know, is what people have said. So to say 100% that they're our forest friends, they'll sit down, pull a stump up, let's have a talk. Like you're so naive to think that.
I wish I thought that was possible.
You get what I'm saying? Like, and honestly, I mean, I'm not gonna. No, Jay, you're totally fine. We're glad that you're here. Thank you for joining us. And Angela, our good friend Angela, we love her. She goes, "How do you know that is not a territorial call? I wouldn't want to piss the big guy off."
Right.
Thank you. Right. Like you're preaching to what we're saying, but. Footer Nation, this is the thing. And Dean, I don't want to miss Dean, because Dean has some awesome stuff, and I do like Dean's take on it, because it makes sense in the fact that if you're thinking in that way. He goes, all indigenous people all talk the same being S. Everyone does everything all the same. Story S about the same being S, which it's true. I mean, I totally agree with that, and you can't even really argue that point. I mean, it's true. So the thing that we're trying to wait, Jay, I'm sorry, I'm just reading comments. When my wife gets mad, it's dude, this is funny. So James is like, when my wife gets mad, it sounds like the Sierra Sabbats. Oh, that's funny. That's a good one. I like.
And I want to say, Dean, that hairy man with Gilgamesh, that was Enkidu. Yeah.
Just, and So I wanted to say, like, we're gonna go. Dean's a good fan of ours. We follow him. He has a different take on it. It's great because, once again, listen, Joe and I talk about this all the time. Just because you don't believe in kind of like, if we say like we don't believe in Bigfoot's an alien, or Bigfoot's a spirit being, or Bigfoot can do portal jumping, it doesn't mean that if someone can come to us and give us their side of it from a very educated hypothesis and theory, whatever.
If you can show me the data, then I believe it.
Data, then you know what? I will sit here and be like, you know what? This is awesome because you know what you're talking about. So regardless of what I believe, I can agree to disagree, but you know what? I can see your point of view, and I have, because it's like what you know is not in my wheelhouse, but in the same sense, I can definitely see an educated hypothesis that is formed, and I can't argue it because you're just, it's great. See, we're not here. Joe and I aren't here to bash the people that don't believe in what we believe, because we're very positive people. We do Bigfoot in a very positive way. What we're saying is this, though. When we start putting out disinformation indirectly in these Bigfoot groups to people that just latch onto it. So a lot of these people in Bigfoot groups have never seen a Bigfoot, right? Mm-hmm. Or they think they see 10 Bigfoots in one picture. Now, and then they start blasting it. Well, guess what happens to that picture that has 10 Bigfoots in it? And honestly, Footer Nation, I'll be the first one to say if I'm wrong with this, then right now, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay? But if there's 10 Bigfoots in your picture and you're putting that out in the interwebs, and then that thing gets 200 likes, 200 people now have liked that picture of your 10 Bigfoot red circles, and maybe even a green one in there to make it like Christmassy. But what does that do for what we're trying to accomplish?
Absolutely nothing, man. It doesn't do anything for it. It just passes on more and more and more and more. And like Gary says, I don't ridicule people. Look, everybody interprets their encounter in a different way, right? And you know, I'm just, I'm skeptical, and people don't understand that I've seen a Bigfoot, but I'm skeptical. How can you do that? Pretty easy, man, because I'm sorry, I am skeptical. When you're going to tell me that Bigfoots are interdimensional hoppers, they use portals, they cloak, they mind speak and do all this, well, show me the data, man.
Yeah.
If you show me the data, but the thing is that those are things that people can say that they don't have to prove, and there's no way to prove them.
Well, there's
you
not.
You can't really prove that a Sasquatch telepathically spoke to you. I'm supposed to just accept that as fact because you're saying it. Well, I can't. I can't accept that as fact just because you're saying it. Just like, my encounter didn't have anything to do with any of that kind of stuff. It was a very, what I would call, compared to some stuff I'm seeing out there, mine's just a run-of-the-mill thing. I accidentally stumbled upon a freaking Sasquatch that I think was hunting a deer, and he was mad at me. He didn't cloak. He didn't mind speak. He didn't do any of that stuff. He just stood there breathing heavy and looking at me like wondering whether he was going to make me wear my ass for a hat. That's all.
Yeah. No, exactly.
And, so, but look, and I won't ridicule somebody. I'm not going to say, nope, that didn't happen to you. I can say, well, I'm a bit skeptical of it, but it was your experience. I'm not saying that, do I believe that? Nope. At the risk of sounding like people are going to be like, Joe's all closed-minded. No, I don't believe it. Sorry. I'll believe your encounter in general. If you say you've encountered a Sasquatch, and especially if you've encountered a Sasquatch and I don't know you, and all of a sudden you start describing, you say you saw one, and you start describing something that was really similar to what I saw, then right there you've got me, because I'm like, I don't know you, but you're describing the same thing that I saw. So, okay, so now I know, okay, you did see a Sasquatch. But then when you start going into, well, he told me that I was a good man, and then he introduced me to his family, and you lost me, dude. Now you're just filling in with a bunch of bullshit, dude. I'm sorry, I can't buy it.
Now,
Can't buy it.
No, in Footer Nation, let's rewind a little bit for all the people that think they're paranormal and things like this. For people that don't know my background, I'm a paranormal researcher for 26 years. I run and own a ghost business. I have a ghost hunting team I've been doing for a very long time, way longer than Bigfoot. So I do understand when we talk about all this mind speak, interdimensional psychics, telekinesis. I understand that stuff because when we do ghost work and things like that, we work in those fields. I keep Bigfoot totally separate. Joe, let's get to a lot of these comments because we got some really good comments here.
Yeah.
And one of our ambassadors joined us, Diane. We want to give a shout out to Diane. I gotta just find her comment here. Diane, where'd you go? There's so many comments. Diane, there we go. So Diane's here. She's one of our ambassadors. We love her so much. She's the queen of gifting, we call her. The queen of gifting. The rock stack she gets and all the gifts is amazing. This is going back to personality traits of Bigfoots, how we say that, once again, some are docile, some are angry. She goes, I believe they have different personalities, just like any animal species. Some are curious, some are aggressive, some won't harm you, and some will kill you if they feel threatened. I mean, that's perfect. I mean, that's true. It's not. We're just super naive. We have some ghost love. Hello from Ghost House Paranormal. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. That was awesome. All right, now here we go. So David, I think it's Herman. He posts this Adirondacks. He goes, I've been hunting 4 years. And Bob Avery, whose father shot the 1942 record in New York State for black bear, who's Avery Hotel and Speculator. I posted the question, you ever seen or heard? And he goes, and there is nobody that knows the North Country better. Said no, only really big black bear. Well, I can pose the question back, David, that the sighting that I had, it depends on if you want to believe it or not, that it was in the Adirondacks. One of my and Joe will tell you, my main research area is in the Adirondacks, and I've been following supposed Bigfoot. And I got to say supposed because, once again, even though I had a sighting in the area that I'm talking about, I don't see them all the time, but I do find the footprints all over the place. The one that I saw was in the Adirondacks. And came across. So, I mean, it's just one of those things.
But right. But again, I mean, that's not hard to believe because I mean, look at all the guys. Like, what I say, Gary mentioned earlier in the show how we're from two different backgrounds when it comes to Sasquatch and Bigfoot and all this, right? Me, I come from that old school of guys, John Green, Renee DeHinden, all those guys back in those days. None of those guys ever saw a Sasquatch, ever in their entire lives. So for hunters and stuff like that to go out there and not see them doesn't surprise me.
No.
Not at all. I've only seen one. I mean, really good look at one in 43 years. I've had a glimpse at what I think may have been one. I don't know if it really was or not. It may have been one. It was a weird situation, but that's all I can say. So I've only had one good look in 43 years of any Bigfoot. So the fact that, somebody could go in the Adirondacks and say they've never seen them, but just really big bears. Oh, I believe that. Absolutely.
Yeah. No,
that's why on the opposite side, the people that are out there on these pages saying, I'm seeing Bigfoots every single day and this and that. I'm sorry, dude. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. Pure out. I don't believe you. Show me. If you're going to make those kind of claims, then show me. I don't blame anybody for not believing me about my encounter because I have no proof of it. Okay. But I'm not constantly putting out, hey, this, disinformation, show me if you're seeing all these Bigfoots, show me some good, clear pictures. I'm not talking about circles and arrows around some bushes. Look, if you got to circle something in a picture, chances are there's nothing there for me to see.
I mean, that's the thing. And
because
that's
if there was
been
something there for me to see, I would see it.
And
you
that's
wouldn't
been
have
my
to
argument.
circle it or put an
Exactly.
arrow on it or whatever and draw my attention to it if it's something there. So all the people that are saying that they're seeing 10 of them every day or hundreds of them every day, or they see them every time they go out, I don't buy it, man. They are an elusive creature. We've said this forever, and that's why science, because they're so elusive that we can't prove it to science that they even exist yet.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of where we're at with that. And I agree. And that's the thing I always say is like I got lucky and saw two, but I saw two in a very long period of time. So I think my first sighting, I don't exactly remember the year but it was between like 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. Okay. But then my new sighting was in 2021 in the winter. So it was January. So I remember that because it just happened. So, but like, and you know what? I'm first a comment. John Jones said it perfectly. Most real sightings are by chance. Listen, when Joe and I were both in the woods,
I firmly believe that.
Correct. When Joe and I were both in the woods, that it was by chance that both of us had our encounters. When I was in the woods, both times I had my sightings, I was not Bigfooting. I was just out in the woods like I was. All right? That's it. Nothing more. One just happened to be in the fall, in November, because I remember the month. It was like November 2012, 2013. The other time was in the winter in January. So that was it. So he's 100% right, in my opinion. We see these things by chance, you know? So, and that's kind of where we're at. So let's get more comments here because we got so many good ones. Dean is like, does not matter if it's Yowie, Bigfoot, Sasquatch, Yeren, Yeti. If one real, all real. 100% correct, in my opinion. If, once again, I do believe that there is different subspecies of Bigfoot. It would make sense. There's different subspecies of people. There's different subspecies of, you know, if we're going to say primates, then primates, apes, monkeys. There's different subspecies of everything. Think of like deer. What is there? Like 30, there's 32 subspecies of deer, right? So it would make sense. It would totally make sense.
Well, I always said it's just total human arrogance to think that we're the only bipedal hominin to survive into the present.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's ridiculous. There was a time on this planet where there were several different bipedal species, and some of them were human species that were walking around on the planet at the same time. So if that was a rule at one time, to think it's no longer the rule and that some of those species may not have gone extinct. I'm not saying that Homo erectus isn't extinct. Yeah, they probably are. They lasted for 2 million years, though, which is a hell of a lot longer than we have so far. Mm-hmm. We've only been here, maybe 200,000 years, maybe a little bit longer ourselves, Homo sapiens ourselves.
Yeah.
But to think that Neanderthal, who only went extinct, they say, 35,000 years ago, and maybe it's only 28,000 years ago, which is a drop in the freaking bucket, may not have persisted into the present time. So, yeah, I mean, I'm there. I agree that, you know, there could be many other hominins that are out there, and some of them are probably human species. They may not be Homo sapiens. You know, my hypothesis is that Bigfoot he's on the same branch. I think they may have shared the same common ancestor as we did. So it's just human arrogance to think that we're the only ones to survive. How many?
Yeah.
Okay. Who knows? Who knows yet?
Yeah. And we still have a lot of good Adirondack talk. And, you know, they say the Adirondacks is my stomping ground. I mean, I'm up there all the time. You know, David just said he hunts at nighttime, goes in at night, stays overnight, no fire, no light, quiet. He goes into Wells, New York for miles by foot, stays in there for days. He's a classic native trained. You know, he sounds like our buddy Will. like
Mhm.
on our team. Our ambassador, Will's the same exact way. He's a survivalist and things like that. I also do the same thing. I'm a bushwhacker. I go in miles and miles deep in the woods and just disappear. And doing mountaineer training and things like that. So it's good that we have these people, because once again, this is how you come across these type of things. Bigfoot, and Dean said it, and once again, Dean said it good again, and I can't really debate the point. Do you see Bigfoot by accident, or do they let you?
I'm glad you great minds think alike. I was looking at that same comment.
Yeah,
you're right, Dean. You're right.
You're right.
I said mine was by accident, but I'm still wondering. Yeah, it was by accident, but then again, he had to have let me see him, because that's the one point that I'm still having a problem with in my brain about the whole thing, is the fact that he could have done nothing at all, and I would have never known he was there. But he made the choice to scream and throw something at the tree. Well, screamed at me twice and throw something at the tree to let me know that he was standing right there.
Yeah.
So by accident, or they let you? Well, I would say it could be both, right? It could be both.
And, and I'm not going to disagree with Dean, what he said with this one too, is that, science and religion is wrong. They know that science alone had to be rewritten. And he's right, because honestly, if you think about it, science is always being rewritten. It really is. You know what I mean? Like we're starting to know now that evolution in general may be wrong, but there's a lot of theories and there's a lot of evidence backing that all up. They just don't want to change. They just don't want to change it.
And maybe not so much that evolution itself is wrong, but it's a lot more complicated. Than what they thought it was to begin with.
And they don't want to change the whole Darwin theory.
They used to have this just one linear thing going on, one thing evolved into this, that evolved into this, evolved into this, evolved into this, and now it's us.
Yeah.
And now they're finding out, holy shit, we're totally wrong.
Yep. And Jay wrote this. I mean, once again, it feels the same way. They're still finding new species and rewriting human evolution. So this is all, it's all connected. So, Footer Nation, we're all thinking on the same path as far as like this. It doesn't matter what side you're on it. It's just a different thought process. But let's do this. Because it's starting to get late. We usually don't do shows this late. I just got stuck at work later than normal. So I want to brainstorm a little bit, because we love to brainstorm here. And this is how we learn from each other and grow. So let's take out now all the stuff we talked about the last hour. Let's take out tree knocks don't exist. Okay. And let's take out tree bends. Like a lot of these sapling tree bends are just, snow load. They're frozen. You ever notice, and this is a thing that nobody really talks about. Hold on one sec. I just want to read this comment real quick. All I'm going to say is this. I'm retired. Yep. Yeah, and then once again, like we have David, he was confirming his. You can read his in the chat room. Please do, because it's a good chat. It's a good thing you wrote. So let's just say this once again. Let's brainstorm. Let's take out everything we know about Bigfoot, which we know nothing. Okay, so what we think we know about Bigfoot. Let's get rid of tree bends. Let's get rid of tree knocks. Let's get rid of tree breaks. Let's get rid of that. Let's only keep this footprints. Because you can't really argue a footprint as much, because that's physical. Okay.
Right. Once you've ruled out every other animal,
you're still left with a footprint. And we're not talking, and we're talking not bare double steps. We're not talking shit like that, which we see all the time, because people think every bare double step is a Bigfoot print, which is it's understandable. It's understandable if you see a bare double sprint, if you see a bare double step and you think it's a Bigfoot print. I get it. I understand that. Honestly, I've probably been fooled, and everybody else has been fooled by the same thing. Until you learn.
I've almost been. Before I knew, that's what I thought, until I got trained enough to recognize it. And there's been a couple that I've seen that I could have swore, oh my God, this is a great Bigfoot print. And upon further examination, I came down to the fact that, oh crap, no, it's not. It's a double bear print.
Yeah. But now let's just
They
take
do
that.
it all the time.
Yeah. Now, once again, even though I'm saying let's just take away the tree knocks and tree bends and tree structures and stuff. Now, I'm not saying, once again, that's not anything. I'm not saying it all could be. Okay. It really all could be. I've seen some weird tree bends. I have. But do I put it toward Bigfoot? Honestly, bias confirmation says yes, I do. But in real life, I didn't see a Bigfoot do it, so no. Did I find footprints next to the tree bend? No, I didn't. Did I find anything that looked like it was stuck under? One thing I see a lot of that people mistake is this, with tree bends, is that most of the tree bends that we see are birch trees or saplings that have been bent over. Why is that? Because they're very flexible, right?
Snow.
Correct. But people don't realize this. They're like, well, Gary, look, there's a rock holding it down, or there's a log holding it down. What they don't realize is this. Mother Nature is an amazing beast. And what those trees do is continue to grow. They keep growing because they didn't die. They just got bent that way by snow load and wind, and then they continue to grow under the rock, so it looks like a rock has been placed. It looks like I've been fooled many times in the past by that. I'm the first one to tell you.
Too.
I'm like, wow, this rock, they put this rock on here? Like,
yeah,
that's pretty cool. There's
plenty of times, man. Look at this bend.
Look at this bend. It's awesome. It's great.
They put a log on it to hold it down.
Yeah. So it's like, but in reality, that's not what it is. But let's take all that out for now. And once again, but I just want to reiterate, Joe and I aren't saying that's not what happens. We're not saying that. What other things, because it's recycled garbage. So let's stop recycling and let's think of something new. What other things do you think we're missing in the forest from a physical standpoint? Because we can't prove any kind of portals, and we can't prove the orb theory. Because I have sent, because we talk about this. Now, once again, Joe and I have worked on a project together. It's called Project X. Project X looks at Bigfoot phenomena from a different state, a paranormal state. We have been doing the work in the past, and we have data to back up what we have. Now, are we saying it's Bigfoot? No. But what we're saying, though, is that the data that Joe and I and Will and Diane and multiple other people have collected in Bigfoot areas and are just our backyards is kind of really weird, because things that shouldn't have happened. And we're not going to deny that they happened, which we're going to put that information out coming up. So I don't want to, that'll be a whole nother show. But Dean, thank you so much for joining us, man. And we always love having you around. Sorry, it's super late. But what else do you think that we're missing? So what are we missing? Because obviously there's so much more physical stuff that we're not looking at.
Right. Hair.
But even then, all right, so that's a question for you. So let's see. Yeah, and Dave said, and this is Dave. Dave says, take 2 2x4s, clap them together and see what happens. I mean, maybe it's possible. Anything's possible, right? But think about that. And then here's Carrie. We love Carrie. I check my areas after big storms so I can make notes. See, and this is why we love you, Carrie, because you do the work. Like, you literally are doing such great work, and we love you. And that's what you have to do, though. But think about that. I mean, Joe and I are going to be honest. Like, we haven't been out as much as we would like to get out recently because, Joe's working his butt off. I'm working, and I'm in college. I'm back in college. Coming back. There we are. Welcome back. So anyway, but what do you think that we're like missing? Because we can't be in the woods all the time. I mean, we just don't have the time. And for us to go in the woods, we have to travel 45 minutes to an hour. So we're not, like Carrie said perfectly, a lot of storms come through, especially this summer. It's been thunderstorm after thunderstorm after torrential rain nonstop. right? Because all it does is rain like all the time, especially when we want to go camping or Bigfooting, it just rains. But we're missing something. So what do you think it is that we're missing? I mean, come up with ideas, because all we do is see the same stuff: tree knocks, tree bends, tree breaks, blinds. And blinds is kind of not a big thing. That's kind of like a youth thing. Because honestly, I didn't really hear about blinds until you and I went to that private case, and then you showed it to me, and I had to kind of visualize it. And then we found the footprint, and I was like, okay, now I can kind of visualize it. Because honestly, I would, if I was in the woods until you showed me that, I would just say that that's an entanglement of nonsense because of vine plants and stuff. But you have to really examine that.
Right. Even for me, I mean, that was the only reason I brought it up, because, I mean, I'd seen so many examples of it, and I could only hypothesize that it may be something that they were doing. But it wasn't until that moment, because you got to realize the ones that I was finding, they were intricate. They looked like something that was obviously constructed, but nothing to show me what constructed it. Until that time when we did the private investigation, we actually found a footprint, an old footprint, be it as it may. But that was the only thing that went, okay, maybe I'm right. But even then, the only thing that footprint showed me was that it recognized that it could hide behind this. Now, whether it built it or not, I still can't say whether it did. But maybe it did, because I'd seen other examples of it. But I don't know. I don't see a lot of people talking about blinds either, but I've seen them, but I still can't say that for definite that they're doing it. I can see why they would do it. If you think about if they're ambush hunters, they would do that, or they might do it in the situation where we hypothesized with the owners that it was curious and hiding behind it just so it could see what they were doing.
And Dave wrote this, and this is actually an interesting one too. He goes, blinds, he goes, I know they use a portable one to herd deer in a triangular placement, which would almost make sense if you think about it with your encounter, because you said you said that he was chasing deer on a deer path, like they were always hunting deer, and then you interrupted him. Right?
I think he was, because there was a deer hiding in the grass about 15 feet in front of me, and I jumped that deer, and then he was about 15 yards away from me to my right. So the only thing I could think of afterwards was, well, he was probably stalking that deer, or he was pushing it. Yeah. Now, I don't know if there was any other Sasquatch there, because I only saw him.
Well, hypothetically, they were probably, I mean, now here we go again, being guessing game. But, yes, and I agree with Dave. They're ambush hunters. Totally agree. And, and then we go by the theory of they push deer into another Sasquatch. So usually when they're pushing deer, there's one on one side of the trail. There's another one on another side down. And as he pushes, kind of like when you go hunting and you push the woods with multiple hunters into the firing zone,
they might do it that way.
I mean, it would
But again, I have to say, though, encounter with that, though, he was the only one I saw, and he did throw something. So for all I know, whatever he had that he threw at that tree, which I originally thought it was a big knot of wood, because I did see later on there was a big knot of wood laying at the base of the tree. I don't know if that's what he threw or not. Could have been a rock that I just didn't see. But whatever he had in his hands that he threw at that tree, he might have been having that just to brain the shit out of that deer when he caught up to it, for all I know.
But here we go again. So we talk about rocks. You've been hit with rocks. I've been hit with rocks. And then Joe proved me wrong. Yeah. But you proved me wrong. I said to you this, and it was right before. I go to Joe, I'm like, you know what? I really don't think we get hit by rocks. I go, and I'm changing my mind, because I've been hit by rocks a million times, but I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not getting hit by rocks. maybe I'm getting hit by maybe infrasound pulse, because we talk about infrasound. I go, maybe I'm getting hit by infrasound pulse, because we know infrasound makes you kind of hallucinate a little bit and kind of get disoriented. So maybe I'm feeling like I'm getting hit by a rock, and I'm not, because guess what? I can never find the rock that hit me. Never. Joe proved me wrong, and he goes out with Sally, and sure enough, you got hit in the back of the head with a rock, and you found the rock next to you. Now, I know you kind of change it. You go back and forth on it.
Behind me. Well, see, I did get hit by a rock. Something.
But we stopped there with it. But you found the rock, so you proved me wrong. Because the first thing he says is, "Ha, Gary, proved you wrong. Found the rock." And I'm like, all right, I have nothing now. I'm left with nothing.
I don't know if the Sasquatch threw it, but I did find the rock.
No, but we talk about this, and we talk about these behaviors because they're primate behaviors. And once again, we're still putting that Bigfoot phenomena for us either into a primate type category. Like, people say they look like apes. Like Dave said, he looks like an ape face. Some people say they're a hybrid human. Other people say they're like a wild human or a type of chimpanzee, or then you have Gigantopithecus and those kind of theories, which we won't know until we got a specimen that's been proven. And James said it perfectly. He goes, people's testimonies is evidence. He goes, apparently it's good enough to put people in prison for life. I mean, that is true. Look at the ufology. When you talk ufology, people vanish. But now the government comes out and says UFOs are real. So all those people they knocked off were for what? Because now they say they're real. But anyway, the moral of this conversation as we wrap up was this, Footer Nation, is there's too much bias confirmation out there to basically keep saying everything is a Bigfoot. And it's a problem. I almost think we're in a pandemic. It's like an epidemic, because that's all you see on the internet is bias confirmation. But yet, who's doing the work? Who's coming up with these claims? Because these are come on, like at the end of the day, everybody wants to believe Bigfoot exists, right? Joe and I, once again, for the millionth time on the show, we know Bigfoot exists because we've seen him or them or her. We've seen them. So, and Dave, once again, thank you. He says the same thing. He's on, what we said. Thanks, guys. They are out there, and they are. Like, we know that they're out there. Okay, that's for us and Dave and others.
I know they're out there.
We know.
I just don't know that much about them.
We just don't know anything about them. And the problem is on the internet nowadays is that once again, and John, here's the John. He had his encounter. So did I. So we all know that these things exist. Okay, for some of us that do this. The problem is this: the Bigfoot that I saw, the two of them. Both times I've seen them, guess what, Footer Nation? I saw them where I didn't have to put a circle around it. I didn't have to put a circle around either one. Second off, the stuff that we're seeing get blasted on all these group pages and people buy into it as it's the holy grail of Bigfoot evidence of everything. Right. We got to stop that, and we have to think logical, and we have to be realistic, and you need to back your claim up with facts. Because it doesn't do us any good. It just doesn't. I know you get excited. And I'm not saying you as in you, but these people get excited. Joe and I get excited. We still get excited when we go out in the woods. Yeah. And I'm still guilty of being like, oh my God, you don't know what just happened. Blah, 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 blah. I get diarrhea in the mouth. But then when I finally calm down and come back to my senses, I'm like, wow, well, yeah, that was a cool experience. And I had some really weird shit happen. And, Joe's had some really weird shit happen. And Joe and I together have had some really weird shit happen in a place. But at the end of the day, we can't say 100% that, it was Bigfoot. We can't say that it was a ghost and paranormal shit because we had some really weird shit happen. But at the end of the day, all we can do is say, that's what happened. So I think that's what happened. So
I can just present it and go, well, this is what happened.
This is what happened.
No.
And it's okay. And I think the thing is, what I think someone said it earlier. Earlier, we're back. Sorry, internet. So with the, it's the now thing. I can't control the internet. It's the now thing, right? But the problem with that is people are getting into these little camps and this being like, well, this is what it is. And now I have 200 likes on something that's garbage. And now you've just taken a big group of people because they want to believe, like they want to believe. You know, people like myself, John, Dave, Joe, we already believe. Diane, we believe. Okay. But these people want to believe so much that they'll grab onto anything. That because someone told them that it was something Bigfoot without an educated, logical decision. Even Dean, who was in our chat earlier, which we love Dean, he has a whole different take on Bigfoot. Our really good buddy, Mike from Long Island Bigfoot, has another take on Bigfoot. But they bring so much evidence as far as an education behind what they're talking about that Joe and I are kind of like, you know, we can get on board with what you're saying. Because first off, we know you both, first off. And second off, you're bringing an education behind what you're saying. You're not just sitting there with 1,000 likes on something that's, you know, is nothing. You have an education. We can then get behind that. So if we all just take a step back and help the community in a positive manner by being like, in order for us to get any further than where we are now with the recycled material, like even Joe and I tonight, we came on and what did we talk about? Recycled material.
Yeah, that's the other thing, and you know, not to keep this going on even longer, but
no, it's fine.
That's the thing, man. I'm getting, you know, I look over and then all of a sudden, here's a video from 5 years ago or 6 years ago, making its way around again, and everybody going back over it, going, "Is this a Bigfoot? Or is it not a Bigfoot? Or this is a Bigfoot?" And other people going, "No, that's this." You know, it's just recycled shit.
It's just recycled shit. Thank you. That was a perfect example.
Too much of it is it's not about trying to find actual answers. It's about getting likes and followers.
That's it.
And I'm sorry, when it comes to I always say it, you know what? My Facebook page, probably one of the most boring Bigfoot pages out there, because you can go to my page right now and you don't see a lot of pictures of Bigfoot. You know why? Because I don't have any. Exactly. I don't have any. But if I ever get a good, clear photograph or video of Sasquatch, I will damn sure show it to you. But it has got to be crystal clear, no questions, that's what you're looking at. You're never going to see any all this other blurry shit on there that everybody says is a Sasquatch or a stump from a distance. And that's too much. And people are putting that up because they want the likes, they want the follows. It's not about finding the answers, man.
Or just feel good about themselves.
And they're just recycling shit, recycling.
And I'm glad you brought up the videos, because that just happened again. And once again, but the thing is, though, that recycled stuff is for all the new people that are now coming into or interested in the field, but they don't know that video from 6 years ago. So they think it's brand new, but yet the people have been doing this forever. Like Joe and I, we're just like, well, that was hoaxed. We know that was a hoax, blah, blah, blah. And Joe, we're going to end on this. And even though Joe just said this, and this is great, if I get a crystal clear picture of a Bigfoot, no questions asked. Joe, what will happen, though, once you post that picture? Regardless, because I know you know what you saw. They'll say what about it?
It's a hoax.
Ding, ding, ding. That's it. So when you stop to think about everything.
It's too clear.
Too clear. It's a hoax.
If it was blurry, everybody would be like, "Oh, look at that Bigfoot. Look at that Sasquatch. It's all blurry." You come up with a clear one. Oh, that's too clear.
Nope. And Jaybird, no, you're fine, Jay. We listen, we're all about spreading love in the community. So that's what we're all about. So thank you for posting that. And then Jaybird put this. He goes, "There's an honest guy that has a YouTube channel called The Facts on How to Bow Hunt. This guy gives no nonsense, reads the stories about encounters, doesn't ridicule anyone except for the cable experts." He goes, "I suggest people check him out too." Definitely check him out. Check it out. Joe, do check him out, because I know you do a lot of that scrolling.
No disrespect, Jay Bird. Steve Isdall, I'm not a big fan. Sorry, just not.
I didn't even know. I don't follow this stuff. So this is great too. Here, this is good stuff too.
I have my reasons, and it's just my own personal reasons. So.
That's fine. So anyway, we'll get off that. But anyway, but this is good. We'll talk about that.
Yeah, because
Carrie,
my opinion of him doesn't matter. So.
And Carrie said it perfectly. Technology is our friend and enemy right now because it's easy to fake everything, and it's true. And then John Jones was loving it. He says, "Great show. We thank you, John, because you're always one of our people, and we appreciate having you here." But what you see is this. Once again, Joe and I come from different sides of the Bigfoot field, okay? And even Joe is saying he looks at all the YouTube stuff, he watches the documentaries, he does all that stuff. I don't watch any of it. So all the information I get as far as like YouTube and like Amazon like documentaries, I learned from Joe because I'm the total opposite. I don't look at anything Bigfoot related really whatsoever, even though I do the stuff. And Joe will even tell you that. What I look at is like wildlife research. I look at that stuff that's boring to a lot of people only because that's what I need to know. I watch Joe's show because I love Joe, and him and Molly have a great show, and I enjoy it. It's good to watch. But when it comes to like watching YouTube channels and stuff, that's just not my thing. It's like I don't have time for that. But there's plenty of shows out there that, once again, watch them, check them out. It's up to you. James, thank you so much. He said another thanks. And we're here for you guys once again, and we're back now. So, and we try to keep everything like Jay says it perfectly. Jay, you summed up our show. All I want to do is keep this relevant. And exactly. I mean, that's the show. But we want to keep it relevant. We want to keep it relevant in a good, positive manner, backed up by facts, backed up by actual knowledge, and not just some bullshit that because it's getting 100 or 200 likes. Because honestly, Footer Nation, we know that you're different than a lot of these people that we're talking about. Right. So we're not really addressing you because you're kind of with us. And even if you don't believe Bigfoot's flesh and blood, like you say, you're still on the side of, listen, put out at least educated hypotheses and guesses, because at least have an education behind it. And that's what we're preaching. We're preaching because once that post hits 50 likes, 100 likes, guess what happened? We lost. Right. We lost because that momentum has shifted to the point of people are okay with bullshit instead of educated facts and knowledge. Isn't that why we learn stuff? Isn't that why we read books? Isn't that why we don't watch YouTube, because some of that shit is garbage? But isn't that why we like watch these things?
Some of it is.
Some of it is. There's some.
I do it as part of my investigation.
And you're showing stuff. It makes sense. It makes sense.
Well, I watch it as part of my investigation because it's incumbent upon me to, even though I have to watch the bullshit along with the good shit too.
No, I totally get it. I get it.
Yeah.
And then I come to you for all those answers. That's why we have such a. I mean, Joe and I have such a great relationship in anyway, and we talk.
But I wanted to say, don't be just what Gary's. Don't be the guy that says something like, "Well, I can tell you that I can tell you how I know Bigfoot does tree knocks."
Stop. Yeah.
But it would take too long.
Oh my! So that's
the bullshit answer.
Yeah, and that was a real answer, and we're not going to go any further than that. But that was a big name in Bigfoot. That was his answer, and I can't tell you. I can't say who it was.
Yeah, we don't want to,
but
don't be that guy.
Don't be that guy. Don't, because at the end of the day, listen. Believe what you want to believe. We're not here to change your mind. What we're here to do is say, listen, back it up by facts. So.
Absolutely.
The NYBS takes this stance and this stance only going forward. Like I say, we've evolved. That if Kenny, myself, on one side. All right. If we don't see a Bigfoot doing a tree knock, right, then I'm not going to say, and we can't say as an organization, that Bigfoot did it. If I don't see a Bigfoot making a tree bend, guess what? It's a tree bend. That's all it is. Okay? We're not going to do bias confirmation anymore. I'm guilty of it in the past. I own that I'm guilty of it, but then we evolve. Don't be that person, Footer Nation. Back your stuff up by facts. The only way we're going to succeed in the field, and that we put a lot of time and effort in, even doing these podcast shows takes a lot of time. Like, this takes a lot of time. I had to rush home from working a double at work today to get home to then do a podcast. And Joe does them all the time. It takes time to do them. So don't be that person. Make an educated hypothesis. Back everything up by facts. It's okay if it's not what you think it is. It's okay. Because the most important thing, I'm going to leave you with this. Guess what? It's okay to say, I don't know. You don't have to know. Because honestly, we don't know anything. When it comes to Bigfoot, we don't know anything. We don't.
That's it.
Joe.
And you know what? Out. Yep. Last thing I'll say about it is absolutely to that. It's okay, man, to say I was wrong or I don't know. It's perfectly fine. And the last thing I will say is, if you can tell me how you know something to be true about Sasquatch, I got plenty of time. You go ahead and you tell me, because I'm willing to listen.
There you go. So
I got all the time in the world. If you know something, take the time to explain it to me.
Yep. So Footer Nation, thank you so much for watching the show. Joe, take us out. You want to get some plugs. Tell them where they can find you at and your shows.
Both channel is Western New York Bigfoot Investigative Group. Facebook page is the same. And tomorrow we got actually one of the things that I do like to do. I got this from a person that I actually have started to respect. And I'll give a plug to his show. No Such Thing podcast with Cornell Hanratty. Good podcast to watch. He suggested this person on New York Sasquatch Live with Joe and Molly tomorrow night, 7:00. We're going to have on a lady by the name of Kathy Dunaway, who's going to tell us about her encounter that she had with a Sasquatch.
Awesome. And Footer Nation, just so you know, Kenny and myself will be at Champ Fest this Saturday. I'll be there from when they open at 8:30 till only noon. So I'll be there all morning before I have to leave. But come hang out with us if you're around, if you feel like taking a trip up toward Lake Champlain and Port Henry, New York. So we'll be there hanging out, chilling, talking Bigfoot. Kenny will be talking cryptids and Loch Ness or Champ and all that kind of stuff. So he's giving a lecture there too. Also, I have 2 lectures coming up that I'll be giving. So stay tuned for that. I'll have the dates on those. I'm setting up. I have pretty much the venues all set. Just got to do dates and times, and they both will be on Saturdays. So you could come out and hang out with the NYBS and let's talk Bigfoot. So we got a lot going on. Again, we're busy. I'm actually going to try to get into the woods tomorrow. That's my goal. I don't have a lot going on tomorrow other than a test for school. But after the test, I'll go into the woods, hopefully, as long as it doesn't rain. And that's it. So yeah, we're back and busy. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Kenny will be back with me, and NYBS show is back live. So you can come and visit us, and make sure to hit that like button and that love button, because we love that you follow us. And make sure to love Joe's page. Win big, Western New York big.
I like that one. Win big.
Win big. Yeah. Win big. You can win big with Joe and Molly. It's a great show, great time. All right.
Go ahead.
No, I'm done. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, guys, just the last thing. Don't sweat the petty stuff and don't pet the sweaty stuff.
No, don't pet the sweaty stuff. Ugh, it's gross. Make sure you wash your hands and sanitize. All right, Footer Nation. I hope you had fun. Thank you for joining us. We'll be back soon. Deuces, everyone.